The first thing that we're going to do today is finish drawing and outlining all of our treats. Remember, when you use the oil pastels, we are only drawing over the lines. We're not coloring in entire shapes because we're going to be painting those shapes later on. So, for example, when I'm doing my cookie, I'm going to just very carefully outline my pupil with black. And if you want your cookie to have a colored iris around the pupil, just choose the color you want for your eye and make a second circle around the first. Now when it comes to the white of our eye, I can go ahead and outline that with a white pastel. Now I know it doesn't really show up very well right now, but it will help us when we paint it later on. It will kind of help keep the eye part white if we outline it. And then I have to think about what color I want my frosting to be on my cookie. I think I'm going to do green on this one. So I'm just going to trace over my frosting line, but I'm not going to color it in. And I'm being very careful as I do this that I'm not dragging my hand over the pastel and smearing it. I'm trying very hard to make my lines as neat and bright as possible. Double check to make sure that you didn't forget any pencil lines anywhere on any of your designs. If you want to go and add extra designs like sprinkles, which would be little dashed lines, or other frosting designs, you can definitely do that with oil pastel as long as you're not coloring all the way in. So this little frosting drizzle is just a wavy line. My sprinkles are just dashed lines, so any type of line with the pastel is okay. Once we're done with pastel, it's time to paint. We're going to be using watercolor paints today to paint our picture. So whenever you use watercolor, you have to add a little bit of water to the color you want to use. Give it just a little tickle, gentle tickle with your brush so that it still has a nice pointy good hair day. And then we're just going to fill our shapes in with color. Now if you're painting the right way, your brush shouldn't be making any noise at all. If it starts making a scratchy sound, that means you need to get more watery paint. So make sure that your watercolor puddle doesn't dry out in your paint set. You can't use watercolors without using water. You can also paint right over your oil pastel designs, and the watercolor will be resisted by the oil pastel. It's an oil pastel resist. So you can just paint right over it and the paint will not cover those colors. So I'm just going to keep on going, trying really, really hard to stay inside the lines and take my time to paint each shape neatly with the watercolor paint. Whenever I want to change my color, I have to make sure that I clean my brush off really, really well before I start adding a puddle to my new color. Make sure that you don't forget any important spots like the outside edge of your cookie. You paint that a tan color if you would like. And also, if you want to blend different colors into the same area, that's totally fine. You can't mix up the colors in your paint palette, but on your paper, you can mix colors. So for example, if I painted my icing pink and I wanted to add a little bit of a darker color of red around the edge, the two colors mixing together could be really beautiful. Or I could try even two colors that are different from each other. Especially if they're neighbors on the color wheel, mixing can work really well. For example, I have blue paint right here, and I know that purple is a color wheel neighbor. So I'm going to mix a little bit of purple into my blue paint, and it will kind of blend together. When all of your shapes on your paper are painted, we're going to leave them to dry.